Peyton Manning was already an NFL legend and a surefire future Hall of Famer when the 2013 season got underway. Then in his 15th NFL season and second with the Denver Broncos, Manning was already a Super Bowl champion, a four-time MVP, and one of the most gifted, indelible quarterbacks in the history of the game. He was GOATed. Full stop. And yet somehow, Manning managed to outdo himself in 2013, delivering the finest individual season of his career, a history-making season that began with one of the most unforgettable performances from a quarterback the NFL has ever seen. If there was any doubt as to whether Peyton Manning could regain his elite form in 2012 after sitting out the entire 2011 season following 3 separate neck surgeries and subsequently leaving Indianapolis for Denver, the then 36-year-old swiftly put that skepticism to bed. In the first season of his 5-year, $96 million deal with the Broncos, Manning was every bit as dangerous as he was during his Colts days, throwing for 37 touchdowns, his most since 2004, while leading the league in completion percentage and adjusted total QB rating. He took home Comeback Player of the Year for his efforts, and Manning was ultimately responsible for turning an offense that had finished 25th in the NFL in points per game the season prior, mostly under Tim Tebow, into the league's second most prolific unit, averaging more than 30 points per game. However, as dangerous as they were, the 13-3 Broncos came up well short of a Super Bowl title. In the divisional round against the Baltimore Ravens, the Broncos coughed up a 7-point lead in the final minute of regulation on an improbable 70-yard touchdown pass from Joe Flacco to Jacoby Jones, the mile-high miracle.
Flacco stepping up and throwing deep down the far sideline. Caught! Into the end zone! Touchdown, Jacoby Jones! How does that happen in the Denver secondary? That is stunning.
Spoiler alert, the Ravens went on to win in double overtime and would soon capture the second Super Bowl title in franchise history, beating the San Francisco 49ers in the Harbaugh Bowl. So yeah, that divisional round game was a crushing loss for Denver, to say the least. But Manning and the Broncos wouldn't have to wait too long to exact a bit of revenge on Baltimore. Because as it turned out, the Thursday night kickoff game for the 2013 season pitted the reigning champion Ravens against the Broncos. In Denver, in primetime. And Manning, who had a couple new weapons to work with in off-season addition Wes Welker and emergent tight end Julius Thomas, wasn't messing around. He was determined not to just beat the Ravens, but to embarrass them. And he did. Well, eventually. Denver's revamped offense actually got off to a sluggish start that night, punting on each of their first 3 drives while Manning completed just 6 of his 12 pass attempts. But early in the second, after a Broncos interception off Flacco gave Manning the ball deep in Ravens territory, the 37-year-old started cooking.
Nothing to do with the weather, of course. It's not 13, it was 86 at kickoff. And Manning will throw wide open to Julius Thomas for the touchdown.
Minutes later, after the Ravens restored their 7-point lead, Manning and Thomas were at it again, connecting on a 44-yard pass before hitting pay dirt for the second time in as many drives.
Former basketball star at Portland State. Again, Manning off the play fake, throws, and over the middle it is Thomas, the man of the hour. 2 touchdowns for Thomas.
Manning was in a groove. And although the Ravens were up 17-14 when the halftime buzzer sounded, their lead quickly evaporated in the second half, which became the Peyton Manning Show. On the Broncos' first drive of the second half, Manning dropped a perfect throw into Andre Caldwell's hands for a 28-yard score.
And Manning throwing, and it is a fingertip catch for a touchdown, but a flag is down. Andre Caldwell beating Jimmy Smith with a juggling catch, but a flag is down.
That penalty was for defensive holding, by the way, and it was declined. The Broncos had the lead. And just over 2 minutes later, after a blocked Ravens punt gave Manning the ball in the red zone, Denver extended its lead on another Manning touchdown pass. But the Broncos' third quarter onslaught wasn't over. On their very next drive, Manning marched the Broncos from their own 37-yard line deep into Ravens territory in less than 3 minutes before hitting a ridiculously wide open Welker for his 5th touchdown pass of the game. Very quickly, a competitive game had become a bit of a laugher, and Manning was making history. He had his first 5 passing touchdown games since 2004 and the Broncos' first since Gus Frerotte in 2000, but he wasn't finished. On Denver's first drive of the fourth quarter, Manning got his leading receiver from the season prior in on the fun, hitting Demaryius Thomas for a 28-yard touchdown.
And Manning airing it out, and a fingertip catch, Demaryius Thomas, touchdown.
With that, Manning tied his single-game high and became the first quarterback in Broncos history to throw 6 touchdowns in a game. Yeah, even the great John Elway never did that. But again, this effort from Manning was about revenge, so he didn't stop at 6.
Pick up the blitz, flag is thrown. There's your first down and a lot more for Demaryius Thomas. He'll go all the way to the end zone, but a penalty marker at the onset of the play.
7! Count 'em, 7 passing touchdowns for Peyton Manning, tying the NFL single-game record shared by Joe Kapp, Y.A. Tittle, George Blanda, Adrian Burke, and Sid Luckman. If those names don't ring a bell, that's because they all played over a half-century ago. Before Manning, no quarterback had thrown 7 touchdowns in a game since 1969. And incredibly, Manning staked his claim to the single-game passing touchdown record without throwing an interception. Of the 5 QBs before him to throw 7 touchdowns in a game, only Tittle had done so without throwing a pick. This was, simply put, the most impressive performance by a quarterback in the post-merger era. On top of his 7 touchdowns, which propelled the Broncos to a 49-27 win, Manning threw for 462 yards, 10 shy of his career high and the most ever by a Broncos quarterback in a 0-interception game. Needless to say, Manning took home AFC Offensive Player of the Week honors that week. And that epic game, it turned out, served as a fitting opening chapter to what was, and remains, the greatest individual season by a quarterback in NFL history. That year, Manning reclaimed the single-season passing touchdown record, which he had originally taken for himself in 2004, only for Tom Brady to usurp him 3 years later. But Manning's 55 passing touchdowns in 2013 put him well clear of Brady's mark, and that wasn't the only record he set that season either. Manning also grabbed the single-season record for passing yards, eclipsing Drew Brees' mark from 2011 in the first half of the final game of the regular season. And both those records still stand today. In fact, more than a decade later, only one quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, has come within 5 TDs of Manning's passing touchdown record, and no quarterback has come within 150 yards of his passing yards record. And that's despite the fact that the NFL schedule expanded to 17 games in 2021. Outrageous stuff. Anyway, for his efforts, Manning took home his 5th and final MVP award in 2013, finishing 1 vote shy of a unanimous selection. To this day, no player in NFL history has as many MVP awards as Manning, who ultimately propelled the Broncos in 2013 to a second straight 13-win season, the NFL's single-season record for points, and the franchise's first AFC championship since their back-to-back Super Bowl titles in 1997 and 1998. Their magical season, however, didn't have a happy ending. Manning and the Broncos met their match in Super Bowl 48, getting stymied by the Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks in a lopsided defeat. Still, despite coming up just short of a championship, the 2013 Broncos left an indelible mark on NFL history and established a new gold standard for modern-day offenses. And that was largely thanks to Peyton Manning, who kicked off that remarkable season with the performance of a lifetime. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, smash that subscribe button.